Hey, what's going on, guys? Mangum Sun here, bringing you a Division 2 video. Alright, so first things first, point of this video is talking about NPCs hitting too hard. NPCs are too strong. Now, I play the game on hard with directives. They're supposed to give you boosts in experience points and what have you, but I also think it makes the game a little bit more harder, makes you play in a different way as intended. But I digress. So, NPCs hitting too hard. What do I mean by that? Sometimes NPCs can do what I would consider unfair things. So, they have things in the game that we don't have. All right? That's understandable. But some of the things that the NPCs have, I wonder, are they things that Massive is testing to see if they want to give it to the player later? Like, the NPCs have way better melees than we do. They have haymakers. They have kicks. They have what feels like stronger gun butts. They hit so hard they stagger us, so that either A, knocks you down from retaliating against that enemy, or it will make you drop your shield or completely break your armor. And in some cases, you just end up becoming like staggered to a point to where you can't even exchange in that fight anymore. You hit them with your melee, they don't move. They don't budge. They don't flinch. They look at you like you didn't even do anything to them at that time. So it's like, why? Why even take the risk of going up and meleeing somebody without having the Sweet Dreams? Without the Sweet Dreams shotgun, which for those who don't know, if you have the Sweet Dreams equipped and you melee somebody that's not a gold bar, then that person's automatically night-night. They're bye-bye, they're gone. So why can't we have more to do with our melee on the side, and instead of the little mechanic that we have right now? It's almost pointless to have the melee in the game if it's underutilized, if it's not used as a key function in the game besides a niche type of I'm gonna use this because I have this shotgun perk now type of deal, then what even is the point? Like, it's a tool in the game that's not utilized to its fullest. Now, I mean, that's a long thing about the melees, but I want to argue that this should be something that's honestly looked at. The melee potential for the game, I feel like they wanted to do something with it, and then when they had their title update, what have you, and they changed that, they took out melee bonuses in the game, like the whole melee damage scaling for, I want to say shotguns had bonus melee damage intrinsically on them, like how the guns were supposed to play a specific role in doing what they do and doing what they do best. SMGs with their crit damage, and LMGs with their damage to targets out of cover, assault rifles with their damage to health. What else? We had shotguns for melees, and I think they later got changed to like damage to armor. I'm not sure about that, but all the guns used to have a role, but now there's been so much mix up that there's no longer a proper role structure going on with the Division. It's like trying to find this identity all over again after it already had established itself in one way. And while doing that, they made the enemies more spongy, but I'm not here to talk about the sponginess of the enemies. It's a video game. We need the enemies to either, put up a fight or not put up a fight. But the fact that, I'm going to just go ahead and say it, gold bars do what they want. And when you give a red bar green armor, when they're either A, boosted by a healer of some sort, they get that green little armor bar, green little extra health bar up under their name. They essentially get armor for free, and it's hard to stagger them, or you just have to melt them. And the argument's going to be, well, why don't you just go ahead and melt them? Because when you're playing heroic difficulty and you have a red bar that has armor, and then you have a purple bar that has real armor, right? But then you have a gold bar that has armor over his health, but the game says it's not armor. They say it's his health. Then what are we talking about here? What is armor and what is not armor? What is true armor and what is not true armor? You know, what's the game taking into consideration for the player? The player gets this armor, but let's talk about the armor in the game. For one, the armor for the player, let's say you get up to 1.5 million armor. You get up to 1.5 million armor, and then you have 375,000 health. And then you go into harder content. Let's just assume you're doing this on challenging, like most players are. Most players are playing challenging. You do challenging, and then you get popped, and then all of a sudden you lose 1.5 million armor on a single hit. Like, okay, well, at least my armor mitigated that. And then a red bar with armor pushes you and chips down all your health because you have significantly less health than you had armor. And now you're looking at your slow swap speed for the change out of your armor plate to put that back. And depending on what specialization you have, it could either be an instantaneous armor regeneration, or it could be a slow health and armor regeneration over time, and you still get waxed. And you're just like, what was the point? What was even the point? Okay, so we'll bring up the fact that, well, you're supposed to run it in a team. You're supposed to run it in, as like you got a healer, you got a DPS, and you got a tank. Okay, so for one, everybody's a DPS. Can't really say anything about that. No matter what build you put together, right? There's going to be those niche players out there. Some like, well, I have a healer build, and that healer build is max heal, and I still put in work. Okay, but how much damage are you putting out? True healer builds in this game don't do much for the DPS role. You only have a specific amount of things that you can run that will give you damage and heal. But if you want to be effective, you want to be part of the fight, you need damage and heal. So now the pool of skills and talents that you can use or that you could use are not even they're not even usable anymore, because you're in a lane that you didn't need to be in the first place. And that is a hybrid. Let's call it what it is. It's a hybrid. You get into a hybrid build of healing and DPS. And then when the moment comes, you heal when you heal. And then when DPS is time to do DPS, you do that. And when you specifically focus on being a healer, running the hive, running the mender drone, or whatever you want to run, then you're stuck behind cover and you're stuck doing one of two things. Massively trying to heal the team and not doing damage, so the enemies are going to take significantly longer to kill because you're not doing anything besides healing. Or you're going to be doing status effects, which status effects have taken priority in the game on a massive scale for some reason, only because that the enemies hit so hard, it's either hit or be hit. Keep them from attacking me so then I can attack them. How can I get more weapon damage in order to put this guy down faster before he puts me down, right? And that's essentially what we got to. And I'm going to go to one of my favorite skills in the game, which is the sniper turret. I've always liked the sniper turret. Way before the sniper turret became, I would say, meta. Because the sniper turret would do massive amounts of focus damage, and it had pinpoint accuracy. It was just a little messed up on how it did that, but they fixed that. So now the sniper turret is like one of the best things to use. But at what cost did we lose some other things in most of our other skills? The defender drone, which you see me running here in this clip on hard, right? I wouldn't be able to run this defender drone like I'm able to if it was in like heroic or challenging or what have you. For the simple fact is that the enemies are hitting so hard that defender drone, as soon as I pop it in the sky, it's gone. That thing is obliterated. It is IDO, see you later. I'm not even going to say that you popped the skill. You just wasted a button press. So, and it's just what that comes down to is that now I have to take my defender drone and change it into something more DPS. It's no longer a defender drone. It's just a drone that's just in the air. I pop it, boom, it's gone, and they keep on DPSing me. I get behind cover. Now I'm playing way passively than I want to, but the role that I'm trying to achieve here is tank. I'm trying to tank. I'm not saying I need to stand out in the open and take all that damage. If we can just figure out how to, what's the word I'm looking for? Blend the two together between cover and tankiness. If there was an option for me to, every time I pressed against cover or stayed within cover, you know what? Patience. Patience is what I'm talking about. Patience played a perfect balance between the run and gun playstyle and getting your armor back. You could spec into armor regeneration. Patience with proc. You get your defense back a little bit. You come out there, you can start tanking aggro. And then you're getting all the aggro, and then you get your armor back, and then you start putting on bonus armor, and then you start doing all this other stuff, and you go back into cover, and you get your defense back. You don't have to waste any armor kits, you know? But to my knowledge, patience isn't in the game right now. There's a lot of skills that are in the game that don't make any sense to where they are relative in the game. So example is that you have Wicked and you have Creeping Death. And then Wicked and Creeping Death, well, they're two complementary talents, but they're in the same slot. Now we can't effectively CC the enemies with getting that bonus Wicked and proccing that Creeping Death together because they're in the same slot. So you have to either pick, do you want a 35-second cooldown for a 5-meter proc of status effects that do not chain unless everybody's so close to each other that if they were any closer, they'd be kissing. They have to be literally on top of each other for this to be proccing. And that rarely ever happens because all the AI have this new tactical, I'm using air quotes and you can't see that, but this new tactical movement, which means that they can roll at least up to 15 meters away on a drop of a dime. So that stops us from doing more CC damage. So it's not beneficial to run Creeping Death over Wicked. Now there's some really skilled players that will go out there and use Creeping Death and they'll make it work. But at what cost? At what cost do you do for using something like that over just basically using, let's say, Wicked with the Imperial Dynasty holster? Combine those two together, you get 18% plus weapon damage, a passive on-burn effect at a given notice, and now you're freed up to use other things and other play styles instead of trying to focus on using a crowd control effect to that point when your holster comes with it passively and you get that plus 18%. And if we combine that with the survivalist class, then we can then help our teammates that an enemy that has status effects on them do an extra 10% weapon damage to them. So now we just got a whole bunch of benefit from not using Creeping Death. That's on a 35-second cooldown. It barely takes 35 seconds to clear a room. And for a 5-meter proc, it's insane. So what that comes down to is that we CC the enemies, we hide and cover passively, and tanks can't be tanks, and healers can't be healers. So truly, we don't have any real gunfights in the game. There's no trades. There's no true trades in the game. There's no, I'm going to shoot him, he would shoot me. There's a risk reward. It's who can melt who first, put up or shut up. If you don't have the DPS, I must have the DPS. I'm going to put you down. That philosophy hasn't changed in the Division for an extremely long time. But what I'm getting at is that there needs to be more balance to the fact that we shouldn't be as scared to put more defensive things in the game, more healer things in the game that benefits us, because a lot of things are focused towards DPS. Now, even how the skills are working, there's only one skill in the game that I can think of that has a really good balance on how the tiers for that skill works, and that's the shield. Probably because the shield is new. Maybe they'll make these changes in the future. But if you have defensive shields, if you run defense, you're using a defensive item, it counts towards those tiers. You don't have to have skill tiers to use it. Now, this should also be for, if it's an attack thing, you should have red cores. If it's a defensive things, it should be part of blue. If you have gold things or healing things, it should be part of skill tiers, right? And then overcharge is so hard to achieve. Some people are going to say, oh no, it's not hard to achieve. Akasa's Go Bag, BTSU gloves, energized, what have you. All right, I'm going to use energized, right? I'm going to use energized and give up my wicked. I'm going to use energized and give up my bloodsucker. Yeah, right. I'm just for overcharge for 15 seconds of a possible skill getting buffed. I'm not doing that. I don't know anybody out there just randomly popping armor kits and be like, you know what, once I get this energized off, they're not even going to know what hit them. That's not the way that's going to work. That's not the way it's going to work at all. And then even with full armor, let's say you are a tactically good player, you have full armor. How are you popping this armor kit to even get energized going? Now we got to play around taking some damage to give some damage. Now I have to get hit in order to proc overcharge for potential skill output for 15 seconds. And if I'm not wrong, I think overcharge is a 60-second cooldown before you can use overcharge again. So who's doing that? Or you got the BTSU gloves, which should proc on any skill being destroyed, not just the hive. Why am I using the hive in that way? I'm going to throw my hive, which was either A, is boosting, the longer it stays out there. Healing, the longer it stays out there. Boosting skills, the longer it stays out there. Or bleeding enemies, the longer it stays out there. But you want me to destroy it for a 15-second overcharge with these exotic gloves. Come on, be real. Who's doing that? Nobody. Nobody's doing that. BTSU gloves needs to be reworked. But at the same time, that still goes back to that you can't trade that skill in for the benefit of overcharge, because now what are you running that you wanted to overcharge so bad? You want that crazy flame turret that no one's using? No one's using the flame turret. No one's using the flame turret because it doesn't have a targeting system in it. Because I guess it was overpowered. The target system was overpowered. And now, instead of using that, everyone's using the chem launcher with fire because they can target and then blow it up. You can CC with that. You don't need the turret. So it doesn't make up for none of this spongy enemy, gold bars doing what they want, tanks just out tanking things, warhound dogs always flanking you and what have you. It doesn't make up for in anything that's going on in the game that benefits the player. Nothing is going on in the game that benefits the player. We don't have directives that could take away from experience points that could make the game funner. All we have are negative modifiers. What is this, Destiny? We're just on a negative modifier binge? That's what we want? We want to go Destiny's route to make content harder by just adding in more negative modifiers? That's not right. That's not balance. That's not skill. That's not making me play the game in a different way. That's making me hide more. That's making me pop shot. That's making me take out the baker's dozen. And, well, if you played The Division 2, you know about the baker's dozen. As soon as I got that gun, everything changed. I'm not using it in this clip here, but if I was, this fight would have been a lot easier. Guaranteed. So the focus on roles in the game has been lost. The focus on what makes a tank, a healer, and a DPS has been lost. And proper team coordination in only certain activities doesn't make up for the fact that day-to-day gameplay isn't focused around this. So therefore, everyone uses DPS and just gets on with their life. And then they run through the content. And then they say, oh, the game is fun. Well, the game is fun for those who hybrid or DPS. They're not fun for those who want to heal. They're not fun for those who want to tank. If you want to tank, you use the shield. But why do I have to default to the shield? Why isn't there more things in the game? There's so many skills, but there's only so many ways to play. It doesn't track. It's not making sense. I have the shock trap. It barely shocks people. I have a decoy thing that doesn't get aggro like that. It gets aggro up to 250% if I'm at skill tier 6. I'm at skill tier 6 and I'm using a decoy? No, I'm not wasting 6 skill tiers on a decoy that don't do nothing. It doesn't even work like Theo's decoy. I get 1 decoy. I don't even get multiple decoys. And the decoy doesn't even look like me. Who's this fooling? Who's this fooling? I don't know. So, all in all, things need to be looked at from a different angle. We need to have the conversation on why the game isn't focused on the roles that we want. If we want to play tank, we want to play healer, we want to play DPS, but we're stuck with this hybrid DPS healer type deal, and we can't really double down on anything. So hope is that in the future we get more specified things that help us out and the skills get a little bit better. And with that, all good things must come to an end, and I'll see you in the next one.